I saw an ad from China Plus. We were looking for a German teacher, I don't remember. And it was starting, well, actually it had already started, I guess. I don't remember it exactly, but it was quite spontaneous. That's what I remember. So the preparation wasn't there because, I had to get the visa and all these things. But of course, 1 year before that, I took a tour through China for 6 weeks. So I kind of knew what I was going into. So I knew the culture, I knew the food, I knew the landscape, the people, how they talk. I knew the transportation, how it works, getting a train, which isn't that easy for a foreigner at least. A bit easier for Chinese, but for foreigner it can be difficult. It is far away from Germany, and so it's automatically an adventure if you go to a country with a completely different culture, with completely different language, of course, where you can't even read things. It's one thing if you can't speak it, but if you go to Spain, you can at least read the words and look it up in a dictionary, and then you can guess because the structure of the language is similar. Here I can't even read it, so this is complicated. Excited, worried would be too hard for a word, but of course you have your doubts. First of all, because of the visa, because you never know, will it work or not? It's always the same. I have some friends where it didn't work out, and the other way around, it didn't work out when they wanted to come to Germany, so it's always a gamble. China Plus, of course, helped me with getting the connections, because in China it's necessary to have the connections. You need to know people. More even than in Germany. Yes, in Germany too you need to know where to go, but you can at least ask. In China, if you don't know the right people, you won't get your visa. It's not like there are strict rules and then you get it or you don't get it. You need to know the right people. And so the connections I didn't have, of course, so where did I get it? No chance. So that was where China Plus came in. They helped me with getting me in contact with Haider, my actual employer right now, and they did basically everything with my visa. I did the German part, but everything in China, which still is complicated, they did, and it took a lot of my head, of my soul, you can't even say, because it is a complicated process and it takes a lot of time, and that was very, very helpful. Stressful is the right word.
Yes. That's right.
I don't think there was ever been a better word for a situation to describe. The first month is just going to the hospital for the checkup, going to the name of the office, the foreign exchange or whatever, where you apply for your work permit. So that you can stay here. I had to find an apartment because Haider offers shared apartments, but I told them I don't want to share my apartment, I want my own apartment, so I had to look for an apartment, of course, with some apartment I would like. So that happened. Then you get your first salary the next month. So you work in October and you get your first salary in 15th of November. So there's the salary issue, the money issue, because traveling to China is expensive, getting your visa is expensive, living here is expensive. Well, not expensive, as expensive as in Germany, but still, you need money. And all these things go through your head, and I had the added problems of canceling my apartment in Germany, which wasn't very easy. A lot of issues with insurance, for example, travel insurance. All these things are in your head, so the first month is just going from A to B, you worry about things, and but it gets better. I don't have that much contact with them, but the contact I have is very nice. Usually it's on WeChat, because it's the easiest thing. If you have a question, you don't need to go to the office, you just write a message on WeChat and then they answer. And the answers are always quick, they're always helpful, or most of the time. If they don't have the correct answer, of course, it's their fault. But up to now, they always help me. So for example, again, Chinese people, they don't tell you much, so you have to ask them. For example, nobody ever told me when the semester ends, so I have to ask. So when can I go to Germany? I don't want to miss any classes. And then they tell me. Yeah. So the first thing I always tell people if they want to go to China, so what can you tell me? What do I have to know? First things is you have to ask for your questions. It's not like they are going to tell you much. There's not a lot of introduction. You have to ask. If you have a question, just ask. They will answer. They are very nice. Everybody here is very willing to help, and they answer. And so far, every question has been answered. So it was very nice. Of course, the Asian culture are very friendly. They invite you to dinner, and then they pay for you, and you have to say no, I pay for you, the whole game, which is completely different, by the way. In Germany, we share, so one pays for his meal, the other one pays for his meal. It's very different, but that's another thing. But they are very friendly. It's the culture here. So far, no complaints. Yeah, I'm lucky. I only teach, well, my schedule says 10 hours, sometimes 15 hours, depends a week. But most of the time it's more between 6 and 10. So I work 3 days in a week. That's quite nice. And so yes, I have time. I've seen a lot in Hangzhou. I have already traveled a little bit, not too far away, because I've seen a lot of China already when I took the trip here. I will go to Malaysia next week, so that's gonna be exciting. But even if you have like the normal schedule, so because I am very lucky, I know this, but even if you have the normal schedule, you still have enough time because of the holidays. You have 1 month off in winter and 2 months off in summer. And so that's enough time to explore. And even during the day, I think the worst I've seen was 6 hours a day, which isn't too bad. It's bad, but it's still okay. You go home and you still have time. So how do I live here? I have to disappoint me. I live the same as a German because I am not a very outgoing person. So when I am home, I like to watch TV, I like to read books, I learn Mandarin, things like that. I am not going out much. Sometimes I do, but it's basically the same life I have in Germany. There's not much difference. I stay at home, do my things, and that's it. So, and you can do that in China. I know there are a lot of rumors about China, especially in Germany, that you're not allowed to do this or that, and so always everything's very strict. It's not. Yes, there are some things that you can't do that you can do in Germany, but most of the things you can do. Just, yeah, be a little bit clever. The salary is almost the same as in Germany, actually. It's a little bit lower, but not much. But the costs are much lower, so at the end of the day I have more money. Especially because food and transportation is much cheaper. Yeah? If I take a taxi in Germany, the least I have to pay is like 20 euros. There's no way I can pay less. Usually it's more like 30 or 40. Yeah. In Hangzhou, if you want to pay 30 euros, you can go to Shanghai. So this is very different. Food also, you pay like 3 to 5. If you want to go big, you pay 10 euros. Yeah. In Germany, you don't start before 10 euros. Yeah, 10 is probably the cheapest if you don't eat döner or things like that, or McDonald's or things like that. But it starts at 10 and then it goes up to 20, 30, whatever. So yes, the salary allows me to have the same money or maybe even more than in Germany, because I get, the German teacher, it's a bit different because the taxes are so high in Germany. So after taxes, it's not that much more than in China because the taxes are much lower. On the other hand, if I will ever go sick or ill and I have to go to a hospital, then in Germany you don't pay anything. Here you would have to pay for it. So it's hard to tell, but I guess at the end of the day, I'm having the same or maybe even more. So it allows me to have this. First of all, where do you go? So I can only advise from my experience. So first thing, if you go to Hangzhou, be prepared. It's getting cold.
In the winter, yeah.
In the winter. So be prepared. There's no heating. This is the part in China where there's no heating. Yeah, south of the river, north of the river. We are south, so no heating. This can get very annoying. So be prepared. Buy a mobile heating or whatever, or put in your coat, or do something, because it's really cold. Next thing is you have to know that this is not like an adventure you go on. You have to teach. I met some people where I had the impression, maybe I'm wrong, but I had the impression that they just wanted to have like this whole adventure going to another country, but they forgot that they have to teach. This is a job, you get paid for it, so you have some responsibility. Yeah, so be prepared, know how to teach, be always on alert that you can. Maybe they tell you tomorrow you have to do this thing and that thing. So yeah, be prepared to teach. I can't stress that enough. Be prepared to a different culture, of course. If you haven't been to China before, a lot of things are different. First things first, the food. And the food is very, very different. If you try local food, like food they eat in China, it will be different for you. Especially the meat. They like to have their animals look at you. And in Germany we are not used to this, and it's not easy for a vegetarian example in China, because in China they like their meat. So if you don't speak the language, it's sometimes hard to order food without any meat. So be prepared, you can't even read things if you haven't been studying Chinese before. So if you're not good at Mandarin, be prepared, not even reading, let alone speaking or understanding. So small things can get very problematic. For example, last month I needed to go to the barber shop, to the hairdresser. Can be complicated if you can't communicate with them. So what I did is I took picture from the last time I went and showed them and said this is what I want, and it worked out. So yeah, you have to be prepared to do things a little bit differently. Yeah, don't be ashamed if you have to point at things like a little baby and say I want this, I want that. Yeah, this is how it works. Don't be ashamed to do this. If you can't speak it, it's okay. I think these are the most important things so far. And yeah, be prepared of the weather, not only the cold. Also, it's in the summer there's a lot of rain. Well, in the winter, last winter we had a lot of rain in Hangzhou as well. The whole February it was raining every day, more or less. So be prepared that it gets very hot and very rainy and very cold. So you have to put in, like, for every possible weather you have to have the right clothes. And another thing that I experienced, keep in mind that Asian people are smaller than you usually. Yeah? If you buy clothes, I have to buy XXX, which is embarrassing for me. But be prepared that you have to buy larger sizes and things like that.